We are pushing our boundaries with the hardware innovation.
We're getting better visual quality out of the gate, better performance.
Whether it's for newsmakers, broadcasters, these are workhorses. They are all being accelerated.
It has been an amazing journey that started small and became something that is transforming the entire creator industry.
That literally turns into dollars, right?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another version of Making the Media podcast. If you're new, welcome. And if you've been watching us, welcome back. I'm here with my co-host, Craig Wilson. Craig, what do we have on tap for today?
Yeah, Ray, and for any new viewers, of course, why not check out our back catalogue of episodes to find out lots more. There's tons of great chat there. But what we're going to be talking about this time around is one thing we know in the media business is it's not slowing down anytime soon. You know, speed and performance, really highly prized attributes. That's what we're going to be focusing on. Now, at Avid, we've recently made some big changes around the DNx codec, really boosting speed, quality, interoperability. And that's not something we do in isolation. You know, we work with many partners on these kind of developments, including hardware manufacturers such as Intel. You might be surprised to find out that we do that, but this is something that we do all the time. So we're really delighted today to be joined by Brijender Bharti from Intel, who, along with our own VP of Architecture, Shailendra Mathur, and our Director of Post-Production Marketing, Danny Hollingsworth, are going to talk about all of these really great, exciting developments. So before we hear from Brijender, let's start with Shailendra, outlining why partnerships are so important in delivering for editors and production teams everywhere.
At Avid, we develop tools, whether it's audio, video tools, that cater to creative professionals. And as professionals, they rely on the reliability, performance, efficiency, and flexibility, not just of our applications, but on the infrastructure underneath. They need choice of hardware platform. So some of our creatives need to be mobile. They need to be in the field with laptops. Some of them rely on workstations and servers. A lot of them are based on the Intel platform. So it's not just about the applications being tuned to the hardware, but also the hardware catering to some media specific environment. This is where the Intel relationship has been really important because we listen to both. We understand way up front what's coming down the pipeline. Intel helps us understand what some of the architectural changes are. And I know Intel has to cater to multiple verticals, and media verticals being one. And then we also work with Intel to give that idea from the media vertical, what's needed by our customers, and what's certain innovation opportunities exist. And then we latch onto that. And Ray, you asked what are some of the examples of some of those areas we've been working on. We'll talk about the DNx codec, that's one, but it's also other codecs, what's being accelerated in hardware, how can we use certain software libraries to take advantage of that. So H.264 hardware acceleration has been one of those big areas, HEVC, how that's actually coming down the pipeline. So those have been very important to us. Our video and audio libraries, the low-level libraries, whether they're working under Pro Tools, Media Composer, or any other product, are optimized. And Intel's been great. And this is not just recent. It's been many years that we've been using not just the SSE2 optimization, but some of the AVX optimization. How do they actually change? How do we optimize it further? And also qualification processes. Once we have things running, whether it's on the CPUs or even some of the GPUs that Intel has, integrated GPUs, Intel's been helping us understand that roadmap and getting it into our labs so that we can try things out and make sure our applications are fully tuned. So all of this translates into our customers getting better experience, whether they're just scrubbing performance, rendering performance, audio playback. That's the benefit that we get out of our Intel relationships.
Yeah, that's great, Shailendra. Thanks a lot for that. And we're also joined today, and we're really delighted that we've got Brijender Bharti from Intel, who's joining us as well. So, Brijender, again, first of all, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. It's really great to have you with us. So, Shailendra there's outlined a little bit from the Avid perspective about the relationship there. But give us, from your point of view, talk a little bit about the relationship between Avid and Intel.
First of all, thank you for letting me be part of this discussion. When I think about our partnerships with Avid, it has been an amazing journey that started small and became something that is transforming the entire creator industry. If I remember correctly, I think we started around 20 years back doing the same thing what Shailendra hinted earlier, like software optimization for Media Composer, S6E02 kind of instruction set. But I think the part that Shailendra hinted later was the relationship has evolved with something much bigger. Avid's architecture and engineering team is an active participant in our architecture review board meeting. They're not just using our hardware, they're helping us to design the future of it. When Intel is planning what comes next, Avid is right next. They are saying to us, here is what creator will need in 3 years. I think, the strength of this partnership. What is incredible for me personally is learning about post-production workflows from Avid. I mean the complexity of what video editors and content creators deal with every day. And Avid really knows this space. Having that insight has made Intel so much better to understand what creators need. I still remember my discussion with Shailendra at IVC 2016, where he was talking about how the data transfer between on PCI Express between the different IPs need to be accelerated. We have been working on that since that day. We also have a deep business and marketing partnership. And honestly, the coolest part is that this collaboration is not just about software and hardware or Intel or Avid success. It's all about creator success. How a video editor can render faster, how colorist can apply the colors without losing a frame, and when whole production team can work together. That's the real win for us. We are making tools, Intel and Avid together, or platform that help people tell their story, and I think that's very powerful for us.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And I think, one of the things that both of you talked about there is this is a relationship that's been going on for quite some time. This has been going on for a long time between the two organizations. Why do you think it's important from a development perspective to have that kind of long-term relationship and a view into what the future is, not just from an Intel perspective, but also what Avid's doing in the future as well? How does that help things?
Very good question, actually. So at Intel, we are pushing our boundaries with the hardware innovation. Whether you talk about CPU, NPU, or GPU, and the whole software stack, and anything related to AI. But when we look at Avid, Avid has extensive experience in media and entertainment. Their products are used by creators everywhere from Hollywood studios to independent filmmakers around the world. At the same time, we are sitting in the same business segment. Actually, if we look right now, we own, I think, the significant market of the hardware market for that space. So when you bring Avid's deep industry knowledge and Intel's hardware innovation, that's where the magic happens. This software and hardware collaboration or development perspective, that's what delivers the most trusted, efficient, and high performance solution for creators. It's not just having great hardware or great software, it is about optimizing everything together. And that's exactly what we are doing with Avid across multiple fronts. We are working on CPU optimization, we are working on graphics optimization, we are working on new AI use cases that are coming in Media Composer and Pro Tools. So the way I see the beauty of this partnership or this development effort is that we are not just thinking about today's problem, we are anticipating what creators will need tomorrow, next year, or 5 years from now. And I'm really excited what may be coming next in future.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some recent developments, because obviously from an Avid perspective, there's been a recent release of DNx, so DNx 4, and obviously from Intel's perspective, there's been some updates there around your Panther Lake release. So can you tell us a little bit about some of perhaps the performance improvements that people would see with this combination together?
Yeah, so Avid DNx, as we know, is a mezzanine code video codec, provides visually lossless quality and maintains the quality through multiple generation of decoding and encoding. It's one of the key in the whole creator industry. But before I talk about DNx performance, let me touch a little bit on Panther Lake. As you mentioned, it's a brand new platform that we launched at CES, and it's known as Intel Core Ultra 3 platform or series. It's a third platform with the AI acceleration. And I have to say, we are really excited about that, what we are seeing and what we have brought to the creators. You're getting a completely new CPU architecture, 12xe graphics that is almost equivalent to a discrete graphics sitting in an integrated form factor. And top of that, we have almost 180 TOPS of AI performance available. When I'm looking across different workloads, we are on average, we are getting 60% better CPU performance, around 80% graphics performance, and 2x AI performance as compared to our previous Intel Core Ultra 2 platform. It's amazing. Now, regarding DNx 4.0, our collaboration with Avid has optimized it to Metal. They are using latest instruction set to give the best performance to their users as well as to the creator community. At the same time, DNx being used in different products that is helping us, to be honest, with the whole creator industry. The media composer, it is enabled for Intel graphics. And we are working together with a lot of new AI innovative use cases that Avid is developing to bring to the creator to make their life easy. So I'll share the performance a little bit later, but just this give you a glimpse of that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And a final question from me at the moment, Brijender, is it fair to say that the performance of DNx actually fits well within Intel's own architecture? You know, it's down to that kind of level.
Excellent question. So Avid's DNx is well optimized and threaded for Intel platform. Avid has done an excellent job bringing the best possible performance to the user. What is impressive is that DNx implementation is actually aware of the underlying CPU architecture. When I talked about Panther Lake, actually it has 3 kind of CPUs sitting in there: performance cores, E cores, as well as low island core. And every team understands our instruction set, how Intel CPU cores are organized, and using the Intel threading building block library to take advantage of all that hardware level parallelism. This is a perfect example of what happens when software and hardware teams work together and bring the best performance. So let's talk about the performance itself. I was playing the other day and looking at how DNx works on Panther Lake. I was amazed to see it is scaling with the number of cores. When I have 2 cores enabled, performance is around 30 frames per second. But when I increase the number of cores, it linearly increases to all the 16 cores that we have over there. So that's very rare to see in any software. So DNx performance is almost scaling with this new architecture you add more cores and more threads to it.
That's great. Ray, I'll hand across to you.
Thanks, Brijender. That was really an excellent explanation. Shailendra, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to build a little bit more on what Brijender was just talking about, and also you teased a little bit in your earlier answer about some of the codecs and standards, right, that we have worked on. Can you dig in just a little bit deeper on really what we've worked on as it relates to codecs and standards, and ultimately how that benefits the end user? Like, what is the end user at the end of the day of, say, a media composer seeing, right, as a result of that collaboration?
I'll start with the media composer bit, but also expand on what Brijender mentioned, which is the scalability. And if I step back and just look at First of all, I'll take a look at just the Avid ecosystem, where we'll use DNx as an example. Brijender talked about all the other areas around AI and other GPU optimizations for video effects and other things. But sticking with DNx, even within our products, we have multiple products that are using DNx. Media Composer is one of them. But guess what? Pro Tools has the same Media Composer engine that's actually leveraging the same libraries. And so Pro Tools, when you're playing in the AVE module, when you play back video, it's synchronized with the audio. It's showing up over the our transcoding systems that ship with Media Central production management, as an example. Whether it's for newsmakers, broadcasters, these are workhorses working on servers, and they are all CPU based and Intel based. They are all being accelerated with whenever DNx is the mezzanine codec or even an acquisition codec. Um, then you also have Media Central playback engine. Where's that playing a role? Even when you have browser-based editing that's going on in Cloud UX today, that's being served up by our Media Central playback engine. And again, DNx is one of the codecs that it actually deals with. So that's a different type of server where the it's not just serving one creator, but multiple client applications, browsers that are being served up, and all this DNx decoding is happening. These are just our examples where any acceleration that we offer from the shared library, which is offered through the DNx SDK, and our own codec toolkit, that's where it suddenly you do the optimizations in one place, do the power balance, all the balancing, the threading in one place. All these applications get to participate in that. But that's just our products. DNx is also based on the SMPTE VC3 standard. The SMPTE VC3 standard basically was built quite some time ago, but we've been enhancing it quite a lot because it doesn't matter if it's just Avid products, but our customers are sitting in a world where everything needs to be interoperable. You have a Premiere, a Resolve, you have Adobe's and Autodesk, so many other products, Color Fronts, all of their products work off the same mezzanine codec. So what we also supply is what's called the DNx SDK. And that DNx SDK is based on the SMPTE VC3 standard, just so with the guarantee that even if Avid is not supplying that the decoding library or the encoding library, any customer, any partner at any time by following the standard can decode that the same material. So that material always belongs to the customer, and with the guarantee that with the standardization, they can actually decode that material. So some of the latest work that we've been doing, in fact, is participating in yet another standardization of VC3, and that's actually just finishing. Where we had many more advances, and I think Danny may be talking about some of the DNx 4.0, what's coming in there. But things like graphics handling, there's better encoding quality, alpha treatment. There were quite what we had in terms of uncompressed workflows. All that is being updated. So we innovate on our own SDK, but then we standardize it. That's what's going on. Why do I bring it up with this conversation? It's because Intel has been a great partner in that workflow, in that standardization as well. So we thank Intel for that support. But that's what allows all these innovations and this acceleration to all translate, not just for Avid products, but also the interoperable ecosystem that our customers deal with.
That's excellent, Shailendra. Thank you for that. And it's a great tee up. Of course, Danny, I'm going to pick on you now, if you don't mind. Avid pretty famously launched the DNx 4.0 SDK availability back at IBC in September. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what DNx 4.0 means and what it will mean ultimately for Media Composer users.
Yes, it's great question, Ray, because I think, I mean, let's get right to it. DNx, the term DNx has been in the market now for a long time. I actually think it's probably one of the I like to say it's like the best kept secret in post production. It's been relied on for its stability, but also interoperability, which Shalindra said for a number of years. And we've had multiple implementations of that. So I think a lot of people understand what we did with DNx HD originally, right? And I think that was well understood. And as we work through the different VC3 revisions, we then introduced what we were calling DNx HR, and that enabled us to do resolution independence. I think it seems funny to talk about now, but I think that was a real big thing for us at one point. Like, how are we going to deal with 4K and potentially maybe beyond, right? Now for many years we've been doing up to 16K inside a Media Composer leveraging DNx HR. But we had these two implementations in the market. There's interoperability. Media Composer supported both, but I think it created a little bit of a misconception that these were like totally different pieces of technology or totally different codecs. That they weren't. They were based on different revisions. And I think what we're trying to do with the DNx 4 SDK is it introduce some additional capabilities, but also unify and simplify the naming architecture out of the gate. So you see, we talk about the SDK, the actual implementation as DNx4, but from now on, actually inside the Media Composer, as of the 25.12 release, we now just refer to both DNx HD and DNx HR, and we unify those under what we just call DNx now. And so what you'll see now inside your Media Composer, and when we refer to DNx, is DNx, and then we have levels within that, which then obviously represent different capabilities, different availability around things like different bit rates, so the bit rate levels, and things like alpha support and different sampling spaces as well. So you'll see hopefully a simplification, but also with the benefit of actually, like I said, interoperability is key for us here, and having that kind of both backwards and forward support as well is important for us. So it should start to seem a lot simpler, and we start to move away from DNx HD versus DNx HR conversations, and now we have a unified DNx piece. That also actually, we introduced a few years ago what we were calling DNx, the GX version, for the highest, finishing workflows and having a codec in that space. That also kind of builds into this unification piece as well. So the whole story should be a lot simpler. It should be a lot simpler for people to both implement, but also for end users to be able to understand that this is all DNx, and actually we're just working with different levels within inside that codec.
Thanks, Danny. Craig, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, so Brijender, Shalindra alluded a little bit to this earlier on, and I think you talked a little bit about it as well. But I think it's worth just talking a little bit about this, about the different types of hardware. So there's laptops, there's desktops, there's servers. There's lots of different types of hardware that are involved here. So what types of hardware, from an Intel perspective, do you think people will see and can really benefit from DNx4?
Excellent question, Craig. I think, adding to my excitement, in just 2 months in this year, we have launched 2 different kind of processors. As I said, we are innovating at a very high speed. One was definitely the Core Ultra 3 processor that I talked is a Panther Lake platform. As Shalandra mentioned, the mobile creators need that maximum performance when you need it, and the incredible battery life that it provides. The second one is that we did early February is the Intel Xeon 600 series workstation. Why I'm bringing this into the picture? So we are talking about a processor designed specifically for the creators for compute-intensive workloads as AI workloads. It has a massive 86 performance cores and also a built-in AI engine itself. We call it AMX. The DNx performance is scaling from laptop, desktop to the server market. That's the way we are seeing it. So when we run DNx codec over here, I think everybody can assume, okay, 16 core was small. Okay, you can see the linearity in the performance. But what happens when you bring 86 core? Is it a wastage? No. Actually, what I saw, I was able to run 21 instances, and every time we were increasing the number of cores up to 86 cores, performance was doubling. So DNx performance, the way it is optimized, is just like you add more cores. It's just like take advantage of that. So it's really exciting to see that the whole creator industry, whether they're using laptop, desktop, server, actually that they can take advantage of that. And as Shailendra hinted, that DNx is not just used in Avid products, it's used in every creator product, where whoever is doing the uh, editing and all that stuff. Somewhere as a mezzanine codec, DNx is playing a role. And this is the advantage giving across all our SKUs, starting from laptops up to the high-end servers.
Yeah, that's great, Brijender. Really interesting. And Danny, I want to pick up on a couple of things that you said earlier on. You talked about the changes to how we're labeling, DNx. So we had DNx HR, DNx GX, DNx, HR. So you talked a little bit about that and that simplification. But I also wanted to ask about, what do we anticipate people will see when they're using DNx? Is it about an improvement in performance, as Brijender has talked about, but is it also an improvement in quality compared to what we've had before?
Correct. So I think like out the gate, the obvious thing is the naming, but then the kind of the real benefit for an end user outside of just being able to understand it more simply is actually we get both a lot more flexibility within inside the codec, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but also better quality, visual quality as well, without increasing the importantly like things like the bit rate, right? So we're getting better visual quality out of the gate, better performance with the latest iteration of DNx as well. So that and that turns into that literally turns into dollars, right? That's it, being able to have something that is visually better looking, even at a lower bit rate, without having to increase your storage capacity, for example, right, to support that as well. So that's always been the balance, and that's what everyone's trying to find when they go into the editorial process. You want great editing performance from your mezzanine format. You want great visual quality, and then you kind of want it to be able to move between the entire pipeline as well, right? You want to be able to kind of think what I'm editing with is it should be as close to the finished product, right, and the high quality piece. And especially as we've been talking about non-linear editing for years, but the color pipeline, for example, right? So that is constantly evolving now with inside the editorial process. The story, the timeline is the heart of the post-production process. But equally, you want to see as close to the finished product at all times. So we're seeing color, information evolving through that entire editorial phase, rather than it being traditional, like we finish everything and then we hand it off and then suddenly it looks beautiful. We kind of expect it to look beautiful all the way through now, from capture all the way through to delivery. And so actually what we're doing with the DNx 4 implementation is introducing some capabilities that make that even easier. Even with DNx HR, you always had a bit of a kind of a sort of a decision to make between, like, I want great looking pixels in terms of the compression, and I want high quality looking codec, but equally I need more color information. So you were kind of choosing, you're like, I might have to go up to one of the higher levels of DNx to get, the higher, not just a higher bit rate, but the higher bit depths to be able to support like a HDR workflow. So yeah, I want to do 4K, but I also want to do HDR. The reality is like people want to be able to do the HDR bit, but at the lower bit rate, they want to kind of go down into the lower end of the mezzanine, the proxy, kind of more towards the proxy level. They still want to retain that color information, right, and not necessarily be jumping back and forth between SDR, HDR. They want to kind of end-to-end HDR pipeline. So the types of things we're doing with DNx is being able to have not just a resolution independence, which we've had for many years with DNx HR, but also a bit depth independence, to be able to go anywhere from 8 to 16 bit all the way through the entire, all the levels of the codec, of the implementation. So I think that's really exciting. That's really gets us to a place where we can have consistency of the look, the feel all the way through, without necessarily having to have these, gigantic files and kind of go up to that, what will effectively like finishing tier levels of the codec. So there's parts of it are in the implementation, parts of it's just in the better visuals without actually increasing the things like the bit rate. So I think that's another area. Whereas if you were using traditionally like a DNx LB, which would have been fixed in the or DNx HD 36 kind of is the HD equivalent, when you were there, you know, like we gave you a certain level of quality. We're actually going to improve the quality of those images without increasing that bitrate as well. So actually the look, even at that lowest end, is going to get better. So you're going to have better looking equivalent to DNx 36 in the latest DNx LB implementation. So I think that's really exciting too. And then I guess one other piece to dive into there is that we did hear from a lot of customers that actually I really like all of the characteristics maybe of the LB level or the SQ level, for example. But I just want it to look a little bit better. And actually, I love the fact that you've got like a consistent bitrate, but I want my consistent bitrate to be not go from 36 to 120, but I want it to be like 45, for example, right? And that you know, getting close to that sort of 50 megabits per second, like there's a significant improvement there. So actually, what we're also be implementing as part of DNx is to be able to, of DNx 4, is to be able to have a variable, a choice of the bitrate. It's still be a consistent bitrate, but you'll be able to pick a higher bitrate with inside the level. So you don't have to jump up suddenly like big jumps each time you go up. You can actually tweak with inside a level of the DNx implementation, which is really exciting, and it gives people a lot more flexibility whilst retaining all of the things that we like about DNx, right? The consistency, the interoperability, all of those other pieces. So I think we get to a point where we're not just, we did the resolution independence. I feel like this is like the true kind of independence of the codec all the way through from bit depth to bit rate as well now as well.
Yeah, so lots of really exciting developments there, Danny. And the final question really is this something that's just, it's kind of coming at some time in the future, or is this something that's actually available now?
Great question. So the SDK is available, right? So like everything I just described about the DNx version 4 exists today in the SDK. It's not fully implemented in the toolset at the moment. We just did our first implementation as part of the Media Composer 25.12. The main thing being there around the unification of the naming, simplification of the naming, and we introduced some of that bit depth independence in some of our export capabilities. But in terms of getting the full benefit of the new standard, that's to come, right? Like, and you'll see an approach where we kind of phase in different parts of the capabilities over time. So we're kind of in the first phase. But in terms of the if you're thinking, great, like DNx sounds amazing, we want to implement it in our workflow as part of our capture workflow, maybe you're another tech provider who wants to kind of implement it. The SDK is actually available there to start actually delivering that stuff. But just from a Media Composer perspective, from the editorial bit, there's phases to that journey to kind of have implementation all the way through the capabilities of the latest DNx version 4 codec.
Okay, thank you to Brijender and Shailendra and Danny. That was really amazing, and we thank them for sharing their thoughts on not only the performance boosts and benefits that we're getting in our cooperation with Intel of DNx, but also what it means for the codec and other codecs for that matter, as well as how that impact is felt by users across all of Avid's portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you want to find out more about Intel's new hardware and the performance gains being seen, then check out the QR code that's on the screen now. Or if you're listening, then just take a look at the show notes. You'll get all the information there. Now, as Danny mentioned, the latest Media Composer is already taking advantage of the latest DNx developments. So scan this QR code and you'll get all the information you need from there to boost your editing pipeline. So for now, thanks to all our guests and the production team, of course, that keeps us going. Thanks to Ray, of course, but most of all, thanks to you for listening and for watching. And see you next time with more of the people making the media.